Pause, cut this, and music. And hello, and welcome to...
We don't have a name yet.
We don't have a name yet. Input title, Table Talk, a podcast about TTRPG and other gaming stuff. My name's Jay Underwood.
And I'm Chris.
And we are going to talk about TTRPGs.
Yeah.
You know, Chris, we've had a real hard time trying to come up with a name for this podcast. At the time of this recording, we still don't even have one.
We may never have one.
We may never have one.
Yeah.
At the time being, we had some really juicy ones though that were lined up. You know, Diced Edamame, a podcast I quite liked.
I wish we had the list right here. We could just read them off and see if anyone likes any of them.
Well, I do have some of them. I'd have the Unstable Top. ttrpg, where we review teas and other TRPGs at the same time.
Still kind of like that one.
I do like that one as well. I'm not much of a tea drinker, but I guess by doing the podcast, we might learn how to enjoy teas and other things like that.
Hey, I'm a huge fan of tea, so I'm already there.
Oh, well, then you can help me out along the process. Another one was a little bit more ornery, was Crit Happens, though I believe that one was already taken.
Half of the ones we are going to name off are probably already a podcast.
The Die is Cast was the best one. That one's already taken.
Definitely taken. Definitely taken.
It's All a Bit Dicey was another one. Role Models was pretty good.
Yeah, again, I think that's probably one of those ones that is just everyone's already thought about this, so.
So we decided a few topics for today, and the one that you suggested was, well, how is it that we do what we do? Or in other words, how have the things that we do in our own life influenced our play styles and how we GM? Take it away.
My name is Chris, and I am a freelance artist in Canada. I love Pathfinder First Edition, that's my thing, I know. And I also do love 5e Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm sure I'll have lots to talk about between the two systems.
Oh, yes. I don't even do the 2e yet. It's on my list, but still haven't really got around to it.
And I'm Jay. I'm a music producer, game designer, and college-level English teacher living in Fukuoka, Japan. And we've known each other for, going on almost
2013. 2013 was the first time.
Yeah, wow. And, the reason for this podcast is we're both GMs. We're both very different style of GMs. We both bring something very different to the table, but we both also have a deep passion for the art form and, what it is as a game and an art form.
The amount of discussions we have had after sessions is, the amount of hours is, uncountable.
The after session report. There's another name for that. Seems like more of a news broadcast.
Hey, that can also work.
After session report. All right. Well, then, based on your suggestion, then, as a graphic designer and an artist, that must have influenced you in some way.
There's a whole bunch of things that have really changed how I play or how I DM, actually. Like some of the jobs that I've held, some of the experiences that I've been through, some of my passions, other things that I really like. They have a huge impact on how I play. The first thing, though, is going to be kind of weird because it's my energy management company. I used to work as a data inputter, right? And that forced me to learn Excel and Word and PowerPoint, right? And that has all been like a major key in my organization of all aspects of my campaign, really.
Definitely a topic for a later session as to how to organize and how to keep track of all these things, especially when you have a campaign that goes on for, like yours has gone on for how many years now?
We're on 400 plus, and it's been going on for about 11 years now. So.
A lot of data to be managed there, for sure.
And I'll be honest, though, even though it's organized, in quotations, it's not organized. It's impossible to organize something like of this.
Yeah, the
size.
difficulty becomes in where you draw the sort of the boundaries around a thing. Okay, so this character, do I put him in the country that he is from, or the faction that he's in, or the class that he is, or the alignment that he is, or is he alive or dead?
And
undead.
In multiple instances, they are in multiple different categories in different places around the spreadsheet, and it's just very hard to like. I've not delved into the whole wiki style of DMing. Because there's some people that have their own wikis online that they keep on, like, you can hyperlink everything to
Yeah, right.
everything. Makes it a little bit easier to find stuff, and I've never tried that. It maybe be something a neat experiment.
We've been
But
trying to add something with that for my long ongoing campaign. It takes a lot, and my suggestion would be to get a player to be able to do it, because as a DM you have so much other stuff to kind of juggle that doing that would just take time away from the precious time away from having to
yeah,
prepare for these lengthy sessions.
that's a whole other topic too. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's get into
yes,
that
yes.
some
But
other
okay,
day.
so you're saying your role at the data input company has somehow influenced your gaming, and in that way you mean that it's influenced you such that you use Excel and PowerPoint, or sorry, Excel and spreadsheet.
Yes, mostly Excel and also Word, right? A lot of organization. I have a lot of tables. I have a lot of
Hmm.
NPCs, and the way that I prep is greatly influenced by knowing Excel. If you were to ask me, oh, if you wanted me to list off all of the diseases I have in my world, I could just go to a part in my table in my Excel spreadsheet, and I could find all of the diseases that I have ever made for the whole campaign.
And as the campaign has progressed, the Excel sheet itself has become almost like a encyclopedia, or of your world. Like it has become like a wiki, I suppose.
It is, but it's only for me, only for my eyes.
Yeah. For thine eyes only. Yeah, yeah. If only the players could. Do you accept bribes?
Not yet, but
uh,
I am looking for a little bit of extra money on the side. So
there you go. So give them an hour with your Excel spreadsheet. You know what I mean? Oh boy, oh boy. This is a PG rated podcast. Um.
Is it though? Have we decided that yet?
No, 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 maybe not, no. And the next signpost was.
So like English teacher. So part
Hmm.
of being an English teacher is being patient and providing clear explanations for everything, and it pretty much makes for a better game. Just like having that experience teaching kids, especially with kids,
Hmm.
people that are not really delved into certain topics or whatever. Having that kind of patience and that kind of understanding and empathy, I think, really does make for a better game master in general. So yeah,
The role of the teacher takes on many roles within the classroom: the kind of facilitator, the judge, the
yep,
assessor,
yep.
so on and so forth. And very much like the DM or GM or whatever you want to call it, they have to know when to kind of be the arbiter of rules, be the facilitator of a player's power fantasy.
Part of my, I guess, my passion is like to draw things by hand. I'm a traditional artist. I went to school for animation, and sometimes when I like draw characters or objects or places, it forces you to think about like aspects you had not considered beforehand. Like drawing like some like intricate engravings on a shirt button, or like this region's hairstyle or the shape of a town or continent really helps you like further the what and why of of these aspects. So
Having a visual representation also helps to keep kind of calibrate players into the same visual and tonal language of the world, I think.
agreed.
Yeah, the use of art as a sort of like a visual item, and especially if it's homemade, really not only keeps players kind of tonally anchored to the world, but also gives them that kind of artifact quality of things related to role playing games, right? You've got your character sheets, you have your dice, which bring in
Yep,
their own
yep,
kind of supernatural
yeah, oh
qualities
yeah.
to them, superstitious qualities to them. And then if you have art that's specifically designed for it, it really leads to a sense of ownership and community,
Oh,
which is
I
huge.
agree. It's all for them really. Like sometimes the things that I'm drawing, it's only really for their eyes, and it does give kind of like a kind of a special quality to it. So
And now it's time for Influence Corner. Way.
all right, this week I'm going to talk about The Simpsons. The Simpsons is great for creating NPCs because they are all. It has a wonderfully huge cast of memorable like archetypes, right? And yeah, and just like it has a lot of my comedic sensibilities have come from The Simpsons. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I like to do some of the voices. I don't know if I'm confident enough to do them right now, but
You're good at them. You are good at them.
hey, well, maybe when we get to
Yeah,
podcast
yeah,
number
yeah.
10,
How to do
I'll throw one out
NPCs.
there.
For my part, I'd say something that's really influenced me has been is simply using music. Every GM worth their salt has been using it. DMing in the early '90s, we thought we were the bee's knees, doing it for the first time ever. Trendsetters in our own sort of way from a high school student's ego-driven perspective. Uh, but now sometimes I'll be able to craft entire sessions simply around a soundtrack that I've never heard before or think it might be interesting, be that video game, film, whatever, television show. Throw that soundtrack on in the background, let the narrative of the soundtrack itself take me along to start writing ideas based on the tonal language of that soundtrack. And then at the end, you step away and you have something really new that you could be used slotted in here or there. The difficulty becomes in slotting in at the appropriate time. And if you have a monster of the week sort of episodic driven campaign, then it works pretty easy rather than this kind of slow unfolding epic. They're not mutually exclusive, but anyway, using a good soundtrack always helps.
Are there any soundtracks in particular that just like stick out that you've done and they were just incredible?
The classics from the '90s are just what I grew up on, and I can't help but go back to them. And not only the '90s, but what I was introduced to in the '90s. And this is soundtracks that go back as far as Conan the Barbarian and anything by Basil Polidorus or James Horner. But more recently, soundtrack to the movie Perfume, a story of a killer. I've probably used more times than I can imagine. It's got everything you need for mysterious magic, action, suspense. It's excellent. Highly recommended to anyone. DM Influence Corner! Way! Brought to you by Squarespace. Okay.
Oh, are we? Oh, I was unaware.
We've already got some sponsors. It's amazing. We're taking off like wildfire. Like drawn to it like
Blue Box.
Thank you. We're brought to you by Blue Box. All right. The that leads us to our main topic today, which is hit points, HP, health
HP.
points, whatever you want to call them. What the hell are they? And how can they be used effectively, ineffectively? What do they do? Chris?
Well, when it comes to HP, we've had a bit of a conversation about this before. That hit points aren't necessarily like blood or like like a video game like hearts. They're a little bit more complex than that. We've talked about like different tiers of HP. Like once you get to like 50%, that when you're like technically bloodied, that means something very different from than getting your first hit in.
I think you're referring to the Pathfinder system, correct? Or something that you've sort of developed out of the Pathfinder system. Is bloodied a rule in Pathfinder? I forget. I have not played the system for quite a.
Bloody is generally when you're like 50%.
Yeah.
It gives the players an idea that they're half done.
Right.
And also some things also apply when you're bloodied. Like I think certain creatures will get more damage. Will do more damage when you're bloodied.
Right. It triggers an effect or something like that.
Yep.
So it has also a kind of gameplay mechanism on top of a. Well,
Yeah.
I think we should say that what hit points are there for, perhaps broadly, is to generate some sort of fail state for a character that renders the character unable to move, or they collapse from stress, or that they die if your game has death in it.
It's a form of ramping up the tension, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really one of the main ways to to put the characters in peril.
Yes. So
Right.
you have a fail state that is if you reach hit point 0, you've sort of failed the encounter, and therefore It's sort of a collective pin that everyone can refer
Yeah.
to see the quality of like the engagement or something like that.
Yeah.
And in the system that you had just mentioned, the bloodied state or being reduced to below half of hit points seems to refer to a situation in which when a character is above a 50% threshold of their hit points, they are in a state in which they're simply taking kind of stamina damage or
Yeah.
exhaustion damage. They're getting mentally and physically tired.
Like mental stress and things like that, and maybe small scrapes.
Yeah, until the point when they reach below 50%. Well, now they have to be worried about like, actually getting injured and having to receive hospice and, medical
Yeah.
treatment and what have you.
Yeah, I kind of break it down into it starts off like with nerves. It's just kind of like they're unnerved, maybe they're a little bit tired, they're a little bit stressed. And then goes to small scrapes, then major physical or mental damage, and then we get into permanent injuries, and then death and concessions. Those are pretty much the stages I usually do for actual HP.
So you've broken down the standard kind of Pathfinder hit points into what is that, 4 sections?
5 different
Five
sections.
different sections. Interesting. Yeah. I know that there are other systems out there that do have things like when a character falls below a certain threshold, they've got to roll for, whether or not they kind of pass out or that the degree of death kind of increases as they get closer towards the zero once they pass certain thresholds. And that seems to kind of incorporate some of that. That above 50% is mental, below 50% is sort of physical damage. And once players sort of get that into their head, they could easily kind of role play with it. And that is what transcends hit points beyond a number and
Yep.
rather makes it something that the players can then kind of interact with mechanically such that it gives them a guidepost that they can then narrate on top of
Yeah.
and say that while this is going on, my character feels the stress of their bones and the grit and the sweat pours down because they're still above a threshold whereas below it gives them a kind of signposts how they can react to what's been just happened to them.
You have a very different system for this as well, though, right?
I do have a very different system for it. Well, the system that I've been kind of tinkering with for the last few years is a homebrew, and it is a dice pool system. Character sheet in the show notes. And the
Sponsored by Blue
sponsored by
Box.
Blue Box. The yeah, Blue Box, if you're listening, Amazon, if you're listening, yeah.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Um, so in Call of Cthulhu, luck is an expendable resource. Whereas in if a player fails a roll, they can spend how much luck they have left in order to, let's say they missed it by 6 points, spend 6 luck to therefore pass the roll.
Mm.
But now their luck is permanently reduced. At the end of the session, they can roll. If they roll kind of under their luck, then whatever degree of under the luck they've rolled, they get that much luck back. So, but if they spend too much luck, it's going to be very difficult to sort of get your luck return. And in a sense, there's something similar to that in my system. Nice alliteration. Something similar to that. The characters, it's a dice pool system where they roll a mit of d6s based on their skill. So if they have a skill of 4 running, they roll 4 d6s, and they're looking to get 5s and 6s. 6s explode,
Yep.
so on and so forth. They have to get 1 or 2 successes in order to ensure that they can expend an exertion based on their physical or mental character ability. And their exertion links back to their core stats. So their physical exertion links back to their constitution, and their mental exertion links back to their basically wisdom and intelligence scores. And they can spend this resource, which is
Mm.
their stamina, but also a type of secondary hit point for them. So if whenever they accrue a damage hit, depending on the type of damage that it is, they can instead, rather than take it to their health or armor, they can take it to their exertion. But if they've spent too much exertion in order to overcome a battle, then they have less of that to go. So it gives them a sort of interactive element to how they wish to engage, how much they want to kind of push their character in any type of situation. And then I can too, instead of making the wound go direct to their health. Say, no, you take it from your mental exertion here because this is a spell, or a stressful. You've just watched your colleague fall by the breath of the dragon, which just liquefied them or something like that on the battlefield.
Sanity.
That's right. And if ever they reach, they expend all of their exertion, either physical or mental, they've got to roll a kind of resilience check, else pass out. And their combat economy becomes less and less in this manner. Hit points can be used temporarily. Let's say, why not create a type of hit points that are like, social hit points for the real charismatic character. And so when they're in a conversation, and you can run conversation just like a battle, that their hit points every time they fail to come up with a witty reply based on their charisma check rolls or sociability rolls and whatnot, streetwise rolls, they lose some of them in that moment of this conversation. They win the debate, and then
I love that idea, but a lot of these systems, I guess, that most people play are not designed for that sort of thing. They're more designed for the hack and slash type of like adventures, right? And I think that's something that I maybe would implement on my own, like for a very specific session. And maybe if it's successful, I'd go on with that. But it could be a little bit difficult for DMs that are not used to doing that kind of thing to try to implement that.
Well, I think it's easy to port over. Let's say look at 5e. How are hit points factored in? It's your Constitution modifier times level plus maybe a few racial / species bonuses, whatever.
So then would that be you'd be using your Constitution? Oh no, sorry, your Charisma instead of your Constitution modifier.
Exactly. Yeah, use your Charisma, get a third stat up in there, and why not do it for all of the 6 core stats if you're using the 6 core stats system. You've got your Constitution, which is your health points. You've got your Strength, which are now your stamina points. You've got your Charisma, which are your sort of social capital points, and some of these refresh more than others. Your Constitution are your like this. If that goes to 0, you're dead. You die. That's your sort of your soul points or whatever you want to call them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Whereas, like, let's say you're going to the library and you're looking to find the lead through the old arcane tomes of this ancient library with the purple moonlight coming into the window, and you've got to find this book before the tournament the morrow. So you've got to roll, and every time you fail you roll, your intelligent hit points go down because you're losing the lead in a rabbit hole of literature and research and whatnot. And these are ways that you can add kind of timers to any situation based on what it is.
Really interesting to look into, like thinking about all these different systems. A little hesitant because I don't know if a lot of my players would know how this would work, and I'd really have to think about, like, in terms of especially Pathfinder 1E, how I would implement.
You have in the past brought in lots of kind of new elements to
I have
to an encounter, which bring in a new rule just for the sake of that encounter, right? It's plain.
Yep.
And I think it could be as easy as that. And whether you bake it into and integrate it into the system whole cloth, becomes something that you might have to explain to the players after the fact, or get their feedback. But if you want to just bring it into this particular encounter, you could even use their hit points as it is, but the hit points don't represent their physical death, but rather their sort of like social death as they get dressed down by the sort of Machiavellian drow lord or whatever.
I could totally see this working for like some sort of thing where you're maybe in a gala and you're trying to get information, and your HP kind of like represents how much further you can like communicate with others before getting beaten down by by people talking to you, or things like that, or the communication of it.
And it perhaps leads into more players' more willingness to enjoy and delve into the kind of social aspect of campaigning, rather than kind of, all right, let's get out to the dungeon to kill some goblins or whatever.
When swords and arrows don't work anymore, right?
Yeah. And I think once players get that into their sort of collective consciousness, and they realize that their character's words are in a sense a type of sword in itself, then that really expands how they can role play,
Yep.
the encounters that you could do, and then even like combining that with at the same time, right? Like we've all had the brilliant encounters where the rogue has to sort of disarm the trap while the fighters holding off the hordes of mooks that are coming in, and you've got these multi skill encounters that are happening. Why not add the social and trying to convince the figure to come with you before the room floods and you're all crushed into diamonds or whatever. And it just adds again a fail state it's present, and escalates as it gets closer to 0, or if you're going reverse style to 10 or something like that.
The encounters that I try to build, I try to find there are other ways of completing it, or finishing the encounter without actually having to kill the something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think in many ways, that way that you're talking about, like convincing someone to either join you or to flee with you, that makes it all the more dynamic. And yeah, I agree. I think that's something that players should consider more often.
And that seems to be a summary from my perspective. It seems that hit points, we agree, are more than simply just representation of health, but that players should indeed, we recommend that they try looking at hit points in a different light.
Yeah, agreed.
And with that, we will close out this session and move on to and so, hey, Chris, what's going on in your life? Anything to report? Anything new coming out that listeners could look forward to seeing, or anything new that you're looking to release?
Considering releasing one of my campaigns I'm kind of working on right now called Rosada. It takes place in kind of like this wine country area. It's more of like a campaign setting that you could maybe plug into an existing campaign. It's still in the works, and there's still a lot of things I got to iron out, but good progress is being made on it. Yourself?
Fantastic. With Tanuki Games, we have our TRPG, which is our TPTRPG, which is our toilet paper tabletop role-playing game, which is a role-playing game that is based on the Bayou Tapestry, in which players will create a combined narrative. This is a GM-less game where you draw on either bog roll or kitchen paper, and as you roll it up and you continue on, you then roll up the side that you finished on, and session to session, you'll probably forgotten what has happened before, and that's sort of the point, because then when you're done, there are instructions as to how to destroy this paper by rubbing it in some dirt or cutting it up or wetting it a little bit and then storing it away for a few months. And then the real game happens when you pull out this old document like archaeologists, and the game is to try to recreate and retell the story that you had done,
Oh my gracious.
based on all of the art that you've just created.
Oh my gracious.
In addition, we will have a 32 card RPG slash space rescue mission game that has RPG elements, in which your Starfleet has become stranded in a distant star section, and you're there to kind of find and rescue as many of the local inhabitants before kind of faster than light warping out of the system before a star goes supernova. And it's a cooperative kind of resource gathering 4X style card game that only uses 32 cards and a small RPG booklet. Look forward to that. Links to it again in the show notes. Well, that's it. Chris, thank you very much for your time and the talk. Excellent as always. See you next
Always
week.
a pleasure. Bye.